So, self-discipline begins with the mastery of your thoughts. This quote is from Napoleon Hill. Here's an example. Your friend texts you to ask for help with the kids again. Most days you say yes, but you really can't help today. So you text back, I can't today. I hope you find someone. Smiley face. She doesn't respond. You check in on her the next day and she isn't replying to your texts or calls all week, but she is posting on social media. Ugh, what do? You ask a few friends for advice. You're feeling a lot of feelings, and each friend gives you a different suggestion. One of them says, forgive and forget. Another one says, ignore her back. You have every right to be upset. Another one says, you should stop helping her so often. Ah, how do you know which advice is best for you? Perhaps you have a different struggle, a health struggle, financial stress, or a family issue. How do we ever know which action to take? Which action is best to solve our current situation? That's what we're breaking down in today's show. Hello, friends. Welcome to the Weekly Fellowship, the space that brings faith-filled women together to inspire and empower each other. I'm your host, Reagan Clement. I'm a life coach and the proud founder of the Rising Tide Fellowship. Today, our gathering is fueled by the belief that one of the best ways to support our God-given goals is to spend time among high-quality people, encouraging you, setting high standards, and making your struggles and your infinite growth feel normal. Brought to you by the Rising Tide Fellowship, we're more than just a community. We're a gathering of growth-minded women of faith engaging in group discussions, Bible studies, book clubs, and online courses. Weekly Fellowship is not just a podcast or a YouTube video, it's a space where we come together every Thursday at 12 p.m. Central for a live, interactive, podcast-style conversation. This is where we share insights for your life in an engaging format, and here's the best part. At the 30-minute mark, we invite you to bring your ideas, perspectives, and questions to the conversation. Your voice matters, and we truly value the connection that we are building here. In 10 episodes, we'll share the details of what finally transformed us from stressed out list makers into the peaceful women who can actually finally follow through. So whether you're joining us during your commute, your workout, or a quiet moment of reflection, thank you for being here. We are the average of the 5 people we spend the most time with. So welcome to a rising tide of incredible women. So I've got some really fun guests here today. Joining us is a wholeness coach, RyAnne Carr. She works with busy, stuck, and overwhelmed Midwest moms who desire a growth community. She creates a soft space for them to land where they can receive the training to design the life they were promised. RyAnne, you also serve women in grief coaching too. Do you want to tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I am so honored to work with you, Reagan, and be here. And on the Rising Tide, I serve as the grief coach. And that was really born out of my personal experience. We lost our first baby 12 years ago, almost 13 years ago, to stillbirth. So 10 days before his due date, we went in, there was no heartbeat. It was completely unexpected, and it literally collapsed our world. And so I did a lot in the grief world and did a lot of healing and a lot of good things, went to counseling, support groups, started a retreat for parents with my husband in ministry. And then about 3 years ago, I found wholeness coaching, which is kind of what you described I do. And I thought, they have got to be married together, wholeness coaching and grief coaching. And so that's really where the dream started. And so now I get to be the grief coach, and I really get to walk with women through that dark valley of grief and companion them along the way, help them pick up and reassemble the broken pieces, all in the context of wholeness, because no one did that for me. There was a lot of, this is your new normal. This is just how it is. No one asked, what do you want? And how can you be whole again after this bomb has gone off in your life? So that's what I get to do. And I love Rising Tide because it allows me to do that.
Well, we love you too, and we're so thankful to have you here. Personally, I'm thankful to have you here, but I know everyone else feels the same. And we also have another amazing coach, Karla Dickey. Karla, do you want to tell us a little bit about you and what you do?
Sure. My name is Karla Dickey, and I'm a wife and a mom of 7 little ones. We just had our last in November, and I have an interior design degree, and I'm also a wholeness coach. And I really love walking with women out of perfection and self-criticism into having just beautiful spaces, even amongst lots of little ones or a busy life. That's really where I live.
Beautiful. Thank you. And I know we're going to talk later with you another time about environment and really how to create a peaceful, beautiful environment when it's feels like it's a little chaotic. So I'm looking forward to having that conversation with you also. Today's topic is on self-discipline, beginning with the mastery of our thoughts. And so I'm glad that we had that introduction to remind us all why we're here. We are all women who have come from stressful, chaotic lives to understanding and believing. Like I can honestly look at you and not feel like a fraud when I say I am a woman of discipline. I wasn't 3 years ago, but I am now. And in episode 1, we know that that means I'm a woman in training. I haven't arrived, but I'm a woman in training. And I think that RyAnne and Karla feel the same way. We're women in training, but we also have a lot of skills and tools that we've learned over the years. And one of the main ones is thoughts. Self-discipline begins with mastery of our thoughts. And now this is such a big topic. I mean, that's a quote from Napoleon Hill. There are so many books written on this. We had a hard time even choosing which part to really talk about today. So we're just going to focus on the tip of the iceberg and really create awareness around how powerful our thoughts are and how we can use this new awareness to change the outcomes we see in our lives. So we all have things we're working on right now, probably things that we've tried so many different strategies to achieve, whether that's your health, your prayer life, your organization, maybe your cleanliness of your home, your marriage, your friendships, whatever it is. We all have something that we're working on and that we've tried so many things and we're just not sure what the next step is. And so today we're going to talk about how our thoughts are really affecting those outcomes and the results in each area of life. And the one thing I wanted to share before we start the conversation is just the overarching formula. And this is something that I didn't know. So I want to make sure everybody knows that thoughts create emotions. They evoke emotions in us. And then our emotions really start creating behaviors and actions. So my emotions are creating my behaviors and my actions, and then my actions create my outcomes. The things that I'm doing over and over and over create the outcomes in my life. So my thoughts are creating emotions, emotions are creating actions, and actions are creating outcomes. And so this is the conversation we're going to start with, but I just want us to all see that thoughts are tied to outcomes. So let's start with RyAnne. RyAnne, have you struggled with your mindset over the years with your thoughts?
Yes, definitely. I remember about 3 years ago, before I actually encountered Karla and her coaching, I had just had my fourth baby. I was trying to lose 30 pounds, and I knew where I wanted to be. So, like, think of if we even have this formula, A plus B equals C, right? We all learned that in algebra. I had the C. I knew I wanted to be a peaceful mom, a fit mom, a joyful wife, a gentle woman. And I just thought if I just set more goals, I could become that person. So it's like I had the A part of the formula and I would set a lot of goals. So let's look at health. So I would be like, okay, I want to lose 30 pounds. I'm going to get up and run every day. And I get up and run it every day. And then I didn't see any progress or any change, mostly because at the time I had no mind awareness. But now looking back, the thought was really, this isn't working because it wasn't working. And so why would I get up and give my all to something that isn't working every day? And this is all going on in my subconscious because I did not even know, like you said, that formula, no awareness that that was even going on. So then I'd say, well, I just need to be stricter with myself. I need to set a different goal. So maybe I'll do the elliptical and running. And then inevitably I would quit or things would get busy or life. And then I'd say, I just need a different goal. Now walking's the new thing. Walking is the new thing. Maybe adding walking with some weights. That'll definitely help me lose 30 pounds. And so I was like, just goal, goal, goal. And then I wasn't seeing the outcome that I wanted with fitness or losing the weight. And then I was just getting more confused. And it was just like this terrible cycle of, okay, set more goals. But then the other part of it was I would go to the moms groups I was a part of, which really for me as a stay-at-home mom, that was my continuing education. I didn't really have a plethora of a workforce or anything like that. And the prevailing theme that I heard there, Reagan, was give yourself grace. Give yourself grace. You just had your fourth baby, give yourself grace. So I would try that some days and I'd be like, you know what? I'm not going to work out. I'm going to eat the cake. I'm not going to do the laundry. I'm not going to do the dishes. I deserve this. Like, it's a lot. 4 kids is a lot. I'm not going to do that. I'm just going to give myself grace. And I remember sitting there on my couch, seeing my dishes out of the corner of my eye stacked up, just crying because that didn't work either. Like, it just was still felt awful. So the goal setting felt awful and the giving myself grace felt awful. And it was just like this hamster wheel that I just couldn't get off of. I don't know, Karla, have you experienced anything similar with your mindset struggle?
Yeah, I think for me it was really perfection, and similar to you, I didn't recognize my thoughts, but I would look around my house and just think it's just not good enough. Like, that's not how I want it to look, or maybe my children aren't behaving how I want them to behave. I really wanted perfection, but I didn't recognize my thoughts were really sabotaging me because I didn't really have the skills to have an ordered home with so many little people undoing them. And I didn't recognize how my thoughts really were overwhelming me in just my home and in the spaces that I loved, but I just I didn't have the skills, especially in the mind work. I was just constantly criticizing myself and my home, and honestly, probably my children in my head too. I didn't really think about that, but I was seeing from a lens of perfection, and then nothing is good enough. And recognizing perfection is not a virtue, and really helped me, and seeing progress over perfection and seeing a little glimpse of progress is so motivating when it comes to all the tasks that we have to do as a mom. So yes, I definitely can relate to how my thoughts were not serving my purpose.
I love how you said, while all of the little ones are undoing them, because that's just so real. Like, it almost feels like you're working, and they're working against you a little bit. And that can be a thought. Even right there, that can be a thought. Just recognizing, wow, I feel like my kids are working against me. That probably is not going to lead to an emotional or action or an outcome that I want, right? So I want to ask you guys how you pivoted from there, but I think we should pause just for a second and look at, I think it's so important to see the destruction that some thoughts can cause. So, in your case, RyAnne, you said I was just flirting between, like, not flirting, like bouncing between goal, and give myself grace. And the prevailing thought underneath was like, this isn't going to work. This isn't
Mhm.
going to work. So when you think that kind of a thought, how did it make you feel? What kind of actions did that make you take?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing, because the other thought that I'm remembering now was just like, you're not working hard enough or you're not good enough. Like, it's something wrong with you. Like, the goal is good and the process is good, but somehow you can't figure this out. And so you're just not good. But really what it led me to was comparison. I was just always looking at the other women that I encountered, even at the grocery store, at mom's group, at the play dates, at the library, and being like, they are so much skinnier. And I remember when they would tell me how many kids they had, I always did that internal check. Okay, am I bigger or littler than them? I mean, it's terrible to say it now, but that was where my brain went. And I think because it was like, well, why? It just made it seem like everyone else could do it and I couldn't do it. And so it was just always the self-criticism, you're not enough, you can't figure it out, this isn't going to work anyway, and then that leads to comparison, and then I'm trying to be like, no, I want to be a joyful wife. Well, I'm not showing up as a joyful wife when all day long I've been in my thoughts comparing and competing with the other women in my circles.
Mm, that's so powerful. And I didn't introduce this at the beginning, but I just want to pause there and kind of show the two angles. Like, let's say you see a skinny mom when she has 5 kids, not 4 kids. Oh, dang it. She's skinny, and I'm struggling with mine. And now I have two paths. I can compare myself to her and say, like, I'm not as good as she is. Or I could look for a different thought. But either way, I have to start thinking about, what am I telling myself here? And they're going to take me on two different trajectories. And so I always look at the negative lie, that lie that says, RyAnne, you're not as good as she is. You're not as skinny as she is. Obviously, you're a failure, you're a loser, like whatever it is in your head. That when I hear that, and if I follow that out with the emotions and the actions and the outcomes, that's always what I think of when we hear scripture says to like really prune off the unfruitful branches. Like that whole line of thought needs to be pruned because it is not producing fruit for you, right? Like, did it produce fruit for you?
Yeah, no, definitely. What comes to mind with scripture is when Jesus at one point with, I think it's the woman who's like washing his feet. Anyway, they're all telling her like she could have done something different. And he says, leave her alone. And I think that's so much. My thoughts tend to be very accusatory. And so I just sometimes that's a simple, just leave her alone, because that makes me sad to think back 3 years ago on that woman, because I was trying so hard. I would have said I was disciplined, Reagan. I was getting up at 5 a.m. I was doing the bike thing. I was, and it just was so defeating. And I just feel bad for her now, this woman, because I didn't have the whole formula.
Mm, I can resonate with that. And that accusatory tone, that's so obvious. You can, as we start building this skill of catching our thoughts, if we hear an accusatory tone, we can just kind of go, whoa, red flag. That's not God. I don't know who that is, but that's not God. Maybe I do know who that is. That's not God. What about you, Karla? Did you see some of your thoughts, like of the perfectionism, kind of taking you toward a damaging direction?
Mhm. Yeah, when RyAnne mentioned just not good enough, that is what, when I journaled later on, I recognized the thought that was underlying so much of things was I'm not good enough. And so it's like I have an interior design degree. I should have a beautiful home. It kind of these standards that I had placed on myself that were really much higher than I could really maintain. And just kind of expecting an Instagram look with, lots of little people. My oldest is 11. So we have a lot of little busy people, and also add a husband into the mix who's working a lot. You have lots of mail, and there's just a lot of things that play into your life. And all of a sudden you need new systems, you need new skills. And I didn't have them. And so I was trying to work with what I had been working with as a single gal, and it just wasn't working. And the self-criticism was very relatable, RyAnne, because I felt like whenever it wasn't how I wanted it, it was just, I'm not good enough. I'm not showing up well enough. And like you said to Reagan, it needed a lot of pruning, and I just didn't have what I needed.
Yeah. Well, when I think about the times in my life, whenever that whisper comes in and I'm telling myself like, oh, you're just not good enough, it usually tends to rob from the little bit that I am doing well. So like for me right now, I'm a homeschooling mom, and I obviously work here from home. And those are two things that I'm like, ooh, these are awesome. Now, I'm still always working on my health and other things too, but like these are two strong things for me. And when I think I'm not good enough because I didn't get to the gym this morning or because I missed a workout, it actually tends to rob from the two things that I'm really darn good at, being a good mother and teacher to my kids and showing up here for my clients. I start to feel like maybe I'm not good enough in those either. And it's so destructive.
Yeah, and you can see where it comes from. I mean, what a genius plan, if he can get into our thoughts. Joan of Arc has this great line, and she says, all battles are first won or lost in the mind. And why didn't I know that? I'm just like, how did I was 37 years old before I learned anything about thought management. And man, my early days of parenting would have been a lot different had I had an idea of even that formula you posted.
Yeah, just the basics. Okay, so let's go back to a little bit, RyAnne. You said something so interesting about the back and forth. I'm I'm chasing my goals. I'm goal, 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 goal. And that's something that I see in myself. I did it yesterday. I was kind of being hard on myself and I was like, here's your new strategy. Here's what you're going to do to fix it, you know? And then I was like, Reagan, you would not let your clients do this. You'd make them do the thought work and then you'd come up with a strategy on the other side. So I totally relate to just choosing that goal and jumping on it wholehearted before doing the thought work. And then the other side of it, you said you were like, just give yourself grace. And then that almost gave you permission to do nothing.
Mhm.
So what helped you pivot from here? What helped you really pivot from those type of thinking to who you are now?
I got a coach. I got Karla as my coach. I met her 3 years ago, signed up for one of her programs, and life has never been the same since. Because, like I said, awareness is the first step. So you need to be aware of it. But then just having someone else, it's like a jungle in your mind, and having someone else to walk through that jungle with was so helpful. So she really taught me that it starts with the thoughts. And so I'm like, okay, and one of the big things was like, yes, I need to lose 30 pounds, but I also want to just love my body, right? Like that was like a real dream that I had. And so I remember saying, okay, the thought I'm gonna have is I am beautiful. And I just every day I would like get up and get dressed and I'd be like, I am beautiful. And I'd still be crying and nothing fit, and I couldn't find clothes to wear, and I just felt awful, and it was because Carla taught me, your brain doesn't always believe every thought, we have to really move and tweak the thoughts, and so she taught me about a ladder thought, so maybe that thought, I want to be beautiful or I am beautiful, that's where I wanna be, but I need a thought to get me there, and so she really worked with me, and we came up with, this new thought is, "I'm up for the challenge." And oh my gosh, it had so much punch in it because I was like, yeah, I'm up for this challenge. Let me find something that I feel beautiful in. Watch me. Yep, I'm up for the challenge. I might go running today. I might do the elliptical. I might not do anything. I might just like be peaceful, but I'm up for this challenge. I remember especially it covered all the areas. So not just like with fitness, it wasn't just working out. Then it was food. And I remember even this like very particular day when I was going to a restaurant, and that had always been my downfall, right? Like I could probably eat pretty good at home, but like restaurants were like, just let it go, eat whatever you want. And I was like, I'm up for this challenge. I bet I can do it. I bet I can find something on that menu that sticks within my food plan that I've decided for myself. So really that, and then the weight just started coming off. Like it was amazing. It really was a tangible process, and Carly got to see it, so that was fun. But really, just finding the right thought, I think, is so so important because not every thought will give you the punch that you need.
Mm. Do you want to add anything to that, Carla? I think it's so cool that Coach RyAnne has her coach here today, and I love the humility in that. I love that so much. But do you want to add anything to that story or something for yourself?
It was just such an honor to watch RyAnne because she really was up for the challenge and she was extremely disciplined and willing to do hard things. So it was really beautiful to just watch how the thought work really does come first. And sometimes it's just hard to believe until you get to watch it unfold for someone else. I think it is so often easier to embrace when you see someone else just living it out. And it was just so fun to watch RyAnne do all the hard work and see the results. It was just so fun. And I've seen it in my own life in little ways too, and in big ways. But it was really just such a joy to watch someone else just walk the hard steps to bring them to where they really desired to be.
Mm, thank you. So I think a lot of our listeners are probably going, okay, I get it. Thoughts are important, but like, how do I actually use this thing, thought management? RyAnne, do you want to share a little bit about how to do
Yeah.
this?
Yeah, and maybe Carla can add some too, because I think we both do it differently, actually. And so I tend to do voice loops. Like well, I guess just back up a little bit. Every 3 months, like quarterly, seasonally, I sit down and I say, like, what are 3 words that I want to describe who I want to be? So, like last semester, I did wise, gentle, and focused. Like, that's the kind of woman I want to be. Okay, so I know that's where I want to get, right? I have the end result. But before I even fill in the actions that will help me do that, I have to go back to the thoughts. And so then I write down a bunch of thoughts to kind of build that woman up. So one of my thoughts for gentle was, I leave proof of my gentleness. And so I wire those in, I write them all down, and then I voice record myself and I listen to them definitely one time a day, if not more, like whatever I can get in. It's like ibuprofen. I tell people, the more you take, the more you're gonna you experience it. And so I really like that because it just is something about hearing my own voice say it over and over again. And then I do it for about 4 months. And so it tends to be a longer stretch of time, but it adds a punch. And then I kind of can fill in the actions to become that woman. Karla, do you want to talk about how you do it a little bit differently?
Sure. Yeah, I actually write it out. I just do it 10 times a day, and I do it for 60 days, and I have a little sheet, and I have all the different scripts, I guess you call them, just thoughts that you want to wire in, and the date that I completed them. So one that I just keep seeming to need to go back to is progress over perfection. Just different seasons, I see the perfection tendency slipping back in. And so then it's just for 60 days writing progress over perfection, progress over perfection. And I love how it fits so many different areas of my life, whether it's keeping my home orderly or homeschooling with my children, just knowing maybe we didn't get to all the books I wanted to today. Maybe I didn't show up exactly how I wanted, but it's progress over perfection. And my children will see me as a whole, not just for what they witnessed today. And I think seeing the scripts written out in just the different ways I've grown has helped, just seeing it written out and what days I completed it. Cause it's like, oh, that used to be a struggle. It's really not a struggle anymore. So just seeing the growth just through the different scripts. But I have done a voice loop in the past, and there is something about hearing your voice saying these latter thoughts that you really do want to believe. There is a great power in hearing your own voice. So I actually have a couple of things on my bathroom counter that I want to add to a voice loop. A couple are just like a litany of motherhood, a litany of trust that I want to hear myself saying, because I really want those thoughts in my mind rather than the thoughts that I often have. So I love RyAnne's method, and I know it's effective. So
It's beautiful. I think what I'm hearing you both hit on is the wholeness schools formula: write, recite, repeat, retreat. So write those new scripts down, those thoughts that you want to be thinking about yourself. So if something that I did last year or I guess it was 2 years ago now. Wow. I did it for so long, maybe a year, and it was, I'm fit, feminine, graceful, and gentle. And at the time, I felt very masculine. I felt like I want to be more feminine. I'm almost 6'2" over here, y'all. So I know y'all, you can't tell on the
I
screen.
didn't know that.
So I always want to, that's been a childhood thing of feeling bigger than everybody else, feeling more masculine. I wanted to be more feminine. And it just became a part of who I was. And I'd go walking or go running around the track and just say it: I'm fit, feminine, graceful, and gentle. And then for 6 months, I was getting in the sauna and a couple times a week, and I would retreat. So I would envision, what does it mean to be fit? And I would picture myself like each each part of my body, what I was wearing, how I was moving, how I was speaking, what I was doing. Fitness for me meant active. It meant when the kids said, "Do you want to do this, mommy?" I said, "Yes, like let's do it." Really retreating into my mind. So I just want to offer it to me. I did never realize this until this moment, but I think maybe it's our learning style. And so, yeah,
Yeah,
RyAnne, you're
because I love the scripts because I can take them on the go, right? Like I'm very kinesthetic. So I'm like riding my bike, but I've got my earbuds in and I'm hearing those. But just with the retreating too, I tend to do that, but I tend to do it in time chunks throughout the day. So if I have those 3 words: wise, focus, gentle, okay, I'm going to go into my homeschooling time with my kids. I want to be gentle and focused, like those 2 things. Okay, now it's dinner time and my husband's coming over or coming home. And so I want to be wise and gentle. I don't know, like I pick whatever adjective and I just do a quick in my mind. What would it look like? What would it look like when he comes through the door? And it's like, well, I don't want the chaos. I don't want this, it looks like me greeting him, all the things. And so it's just like I'm giving my mind just a little bit of a runway and like the tracks. I'm laying the track to say, if things go off the tracks, I know how to get back on easier because I've already done it in my mind. I've already imagined what I will be like, what my ideal is.
Yep, that's exactly. And it's the auditory and the physical movement, and then putting it in each season of your each part of your day. I just love that. That's an addition that I haven't done. Karla, do you have anything to add to that? And then we'll wrap up.
RyAnne has really led me to be better at imagination. She's really the one that said, like, in your car, whenever you come up against kind of a tricky situation, imagine it first. And I had kind of forgotten about just utilizing that great skill. And so I just look forward to incorporating it in new ways, because I feel like after you have a baby, there's a lot of moving pieces and you can have a lot of excuses, but it's also really a beautiful time to witness the beauty of a large family, or, more children to other people. So it's like, oh man, how can I incorporate imagination so that I'm showing up better for my people, but also as a better witness of what large family life can look like. So imagination, I'm looking forward to incorporating that through her witness.
Beautiful. I think the final point, kind of to sum up everything we've talked about here and add like a little piece that maybe we should have added sooner, is this is, self-discipline starts with the mastery of our thoughts. We're talking about our thoughts, but when we're learning how to break down thought management, and we're talking about 4 ways we can really rewire our thoughts: writing them, reciting them, repeating them, or that voice loop, and then retreating into your mind and imagining. And our minds, the secret to this is that our mind doesn't know if it really happened or if this is all in our heads. So every time we hear it, we picture it, we imagine it, our brain thinks it's just as real as our breakfast we ate this morning. There is no difference to it. So it sees there's evidence that that's true every time we imagine it. And it's just it becomes so real. So that's a really integral part that maybe our listeners need to know is it's so helpful to rewire those neural pathways using imagination and writing, reciting, repeating, retreating, because our mind will start to believe us. We get to actually convince it. Just so cool.
Yeah, and I just want to say, Reagan, too, I remember a few months ago, you and I had just started working together, and after one of our meetings, and we've only ever met on Zoom, I've never met in person, and I sent you a text and I was like, you're just so gentle. It's just amazing. And you're like, I have worked so hard on that, girl. So it really works. Like I could feel that through the screen though. Like that's amazing. That's amazing. So I just want to say it's working. We're doing a great job, and we're all in progress for sure.
Glory to God, and thank you. Woohoo, I love that. Thank you, friends, for joining us today for Weekly Fellowship. If you've enjoyed today's conversation and want to dive deeper into our community of growth-minded women, I invite you to join the Rising Tide Fellowship. Visit risingtidefellowship.com to connect with like-minded souls, engage in enriching discussions, and discover the support you need for your journey. And for those of you seeking more personalized support, consider working with me, Reagan Clement, at reaganclementcoaching.com. Subscribe, rate, and leave a review to help us reach more hearts.